Hey, everybody. This week, we're going to learn about social media strategy and tactics. So, the first question is, how do you create a social media strategy? If only somebody provided you with some steps to accomplish this goal. Well, got you covered. Step one, set goals that align with the brand objectives. What is the brand trying to accomplish? How does social media help you get there? Using SMART goals, which we've talked about, will let you track meaningful metrics or KPIs, which we learned about last week. And all this will help ensure that you're actually making progress toward the goal. So, for example, do you want to grow the brand? If so, awareness is the way you get there, and you would measure this with followers, shares, etc. Do you want to turn customers into advocates? If so, engagement is what you're going for, and you would measure comments, likes. You can see the rest. So, depending on your goal or objective, that will let you know what the social media goal is and how to measure it to ensure that you're actually getting there. Step two, learn everything about your audience that you can. You will create personas and gather real world data. Do you recall the definition of persona from a few weeks ago? I think it was something like an idealized representation of, or a fictional representation of your ideal customer. There was a picture of some bro with a man bun from a CrossFit gym. And we said, like, his name's Chad, he's 26, he does this, he's into fitness and health. So whatever your brand is and whatever platform you're using, you'll have a persona, and you can use real world data to inform that to help you figure out where your audience is. So if they're on Facebook, you would have a different, but you'd have persona for Facebook. If they're on Instagram, you have an Instagram persona, etc. Step three, figure out what others are doing, either brands that your peer brands or aspirational brands that you want to be like. And you can conduct a competitive SWOT analysis. I'm sure you've done that in other classes, and use social listening to figure out what others are doing. Because if they're doing stuff that works, you could maybe adapt some of that. And if they're doing something that isn't working, then you want to steer clear. Aren't these beautiful dancing tacos? Take a moment, just appreciate this GIF. Step four, conduct a social media audit. You know what this is because you did this last week, I think. What's working, who's connecting, what channels are we doing, what kinds of posts are doing the most engagement. Oh, if we do posts that have human faces, those get more engagement than if we do infographics. If we post at a certain time of day, that does better than if we post at midnight. These are the things you learn about your own social media when you do a social audit. And this is one template of what it could look like. You can also find it if you just Google it. Step five, set up accounts if you don't already have them and improve existing ones. Which network does what? Which persona are you reaching through each network? You're probably not going to reach grandmas with TikTok, but maybe, I don't know. I don't know your brand. Are the images sized properly? So before you post anything to any channel, make sure you Google the right specifications. You want it to look good on whatever channel you're using. Step six, get inspired using various tactics, which we'll talk about in about 45 seconds. Step seven, create a social media content calendar. We've talked about this, but a posting schedule and plotting a mix of content will help keep your brand posts engaging, useful. There's different ways to divide it out. You could do a division like this, like plan out ahead of time what you'll post about. Could go with the 80-20 rule. 80% of your posts are just fun, inform, educate, entertain, and 20% are direct promotional stuff. You could do a rule of thirds. These are all just different ways to break down the mix of content you put out there. Step eight, you test, evaluate, adjust. Using data and your own engagement information, figure out what's working, do more of that, figure out what's not working, and do less of the bad stuff. For example, when I first moved to Tennessee, I wanted to see where I could go snowboarding, so I searched for lift tickets, and I got ads for some Tennessee and North Carolina resorts, but I also got ads for snow tubing and other like kind of snow related activities. Liftopia, there was a case study where they increased conversions by almost 25% just by giving people simpler ads. So they didn't target people with ads for lift tickets if they searched for snow mountain getaway. They only paid to target them if they specifically searched, I want lift tickets, then they would target them. This sounds obvious, but sometimes the other thing can be true. You can get people that do a broad search. So by tracking their own data, they were able to narrow their focus down and get better engagement. I also have a friend that worked on a global Visa account, and they didn't know which gifts were going to work. And she said they figured out that different gifts with different animations work better on different platforms. They don't even know why. They just know that, like on Twitter, the static one worked, but on Instagram, they had one with the lines moved horizontally, and that one works. So the only way they know this is by tracking engagement numbers. So what are some tactics you can include in your strategy? Lucky for y'all, I put this into a helpful acronym. T, timely. A, ask. C, customer focus. T, again, tell a story. I, introduce them to something new. And C, do something charitable. Let's take those one at a time. So if strategy is the big macro picture, the overall plan to get to where you want to go, tactics is kind of the micro little ways to get there. So if strategy is the war, tactics can be little battles. So these are some examples for posts if you need ideas for content. T, first T, do something timely. For example, during the last World Series, a Nationals fan took a home run ball to the gut rather than spill the beer he was drinking. As you can see, it's Bud Light beer. Do you think Bud Light saw this on Twitter? Absolutely, they did. They said, this man's a hero. Twitter, figure out who it is so we can reward him. This is amazing content. The fact that even if he just likes Bud Light because it's all they were selling, it looks really good to say he would rather take a really hard baseball to his belly than to spill his Bud Light. This is funny. It's timely. They saw this and they acted quickly because I'm sure they have lots of people doing social listening for them. But this is an example of a funny, timely post that was relevant and got a lot of good traffic. A, ask your customers something. Doc Martin said, hey, we've been making docs since 1960s. What are your favorite pairs? Asking your customers something about either your brand or how they use their brand in their lives can be a way to generate some content for you. Even Pepto-Bismol, which you wouldn't think would have an active Twitter presence, but apparently they do. Most awkward places to experience diarrhea? Go. Oddly enough, they got more engagement or they got more feedback on their grammar choices than anything else, but that's still pretty funny. This can backfire. So this is why you need to know your brand and its personality. For example, when McDonald's said, tell us a story about McD stories, they had some other interesting responses on Twitter, and to bring the diarrhea thing full circle. So you got to know your brand, know what people are likely to say about it but asking customers for stories or ideas can be a good way to generate content. Speaking of which, C, customer focused. Retweet or repost stuff that your customers are posting about you. Lego retweeted this dude, Greg Grunberg, because he built some Star Wars thing. Hey, watch me build. Yay. Oh, good job. This is pretty safe. Again, you're basically getting earned media because people are posting about you. You're just retweeting it, repost them. It always feels good to get retweeted or reposted by a brand you like. Everlane clothing company, same thing. Peachy pants for a peachy summer. If you have real influencers or wannabe influencers or anybody who's posting with your clothes or using your site, repost, give them a shout out. It's kind of an everybody wins situation. T, tell your story. What is unique about your brand? How are you started? What's something special about you? For example, these two dudes started a tea company in New Jersey, and I did some consulting for them early on with social media, trying to give them ideas. And one thing that's unique is the two of them finished college and they just love tea, and they couldn't find a cold brew tea company. So they talk about Now, if you check their social, they talk a lot about, well, we love tea. It's cool. There's a lot of stuff about like cold brew coffee. I don't even know exactly what cold pressed or cold brew tea is, but apparently it's a very like intricate process. And when they talk about that, it makes for good social because it's compelling. It has good visuals. It's interesting. So talking about how they got founded, their love of tea is one strategy. Tom's Shoes is something you're probably more familiar with. They can get endless amounts of um, content just talking about their story. Everyone knows them. They're kind of one of the first big charitable groups. They do the "You buy a pair of shoes, we donate a pair of shoes." So they have there's no shortage of content they can generate just from telling their own story. And as you can see down at the bottom, this also overlaps with another tactic. They are featuring people who Instagrammed customers who took pictures of their own Tom shoes. So a lot of these tactics overlap. I introduce them to something new or educate, entertain, delight us. Tell me something I didn't know. I think this is the number one. If you're not paying attention, just listen, zoom in right now mentally. In my opinion, the number one reason people use social media is to see something new. We're in search of novelty. Make me laugh, teach me a fact, show me something beautiful. I think we're craving the kind of stimulation of give me something new. So, for example, Patagonia posted about, hey, this guy, again, customer focused. He's an educator, activist, helps Latinx people in outdoor and conservation communities. Great. I didn't know this exists. Probably a cool thing. Pop Tarts responds when to a Bud Light flavored Pop Tart crossover. I didn't know this existed. I don't know if it's real, but if I saw this on Twitter, I would like it and maybe share it because it's pretty funny. C, finally, last tactic, do something good for the planet, do something good for the world, be charitable, and then talk about it. People like that. A lot of my research looks at how well people respond when brands are genuinely caring about the environment or a cause or a crisis. For example, Starbucks they're a giant company. They have a whole bunch of stuff. They help pay for college student tuitions. Tom's, again, this isn't about their shoes. This was them flying in supplies to help Hurricane Dorian survivors. So most brands have, even if you're a small mom and pop or a big international corporation, you can do something good to give back in some way. And if it aligns with your values, that's even better. So talk about that on social media. People like that kind of stuff. And this is unrelated, but my 3 C's for life success: curiosity, compassion, and courage. I think cultivating those 3 qualities will lead you into success no matter where you go. Okay, that's it. Your homework is to create a social media matrix for strategy, which we'll talk about in Canvas. Have a good week.